G'day world, this is Chris Hogan and Andrew Grote coming to you from Mimi Neo Studio here at Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast for episode 108 of Get Fact Up. And today we are talking about...
Controversial updates on Google and Facebook.
Controversial?
We're going to say reckless, but I think we just toned down the language on that one. Absolutely. We're not really sure what's happening, where it's going to land at this point.
That's right. We might get banned from a channel or two if we're not careful.
Don't ban us, please.
We're just talking openly. Okay, so what's the first big update that's, I guess, giving us this title for our...
Okay, so there is 100% been a Google algorithm update in the last week, and we've seen it affect a number of people that are close to us, clients and ourselves. And we're not entirely sure where it's going to end at this point. So there was what everyone called the Medic update a couple of months back, which was targeting people that had sort of amateur opinions on health and well-being and things like that, started disappearing from the search results. And they're saying that this is sort of an extension of that. So the big thing about that, it was taking out people that were giving opinions that weren't professional opinions in that space. And it seems like this is more of the same. Yeah,
we've seen the likes of Danny Sullivan, who is at Google, confirm so that it is a global rollout. It's proliferated through the entire interwebs. And it's not just isolated to any one country.
And they typically aren't that vocal about their updates. And this time around, they're basically plastering, saying this is a big core update. And that's terminology you have to watch for as well. When they say core algorithm updates, it means it's big. And
people are seeing major jumps in their rankings on non-medical related search terms where I've seen comments like, I had a website that was on, ranking for 50 plus positions on Google rankings. Now they're page one, and the opposite,
and vice versa,
the opposite. Yeah,
I've seen people jump 2-3 pages in either direction, and it's sort of going back and forward. It's starting to settle a little bit now, but we still haven't had an official update that the rollout's done.
But one thing we do know is that Google have decreased the amount of listings that you will get in the search engine results pages for your domain. So sometimes you could actually take up multiple listings on the SERPs
for a particular keyword. If you were covering that content quite well, you could easily get 4 or 5 listings on the first page of a particular keyword. And they've specifically said that that's changing now. They're talking about diversification of search results.
And what are we worried about there? We actually thought, here we go again. We're going to see the rise of mini sites.
Mini sites coming back and people buying 200 domain names with the same content everywhere. I highly doubt Google's going to let that happen, but we might see people trying to attempt that sort of thing in the short term.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at it from a holistic sort of point of view, from a fairness point of view, it is a good update. It means everyone gets a go to be in the search results, but a big change in business if you're relying on specific search results in that area. We can complain about this, but at the end of the day, we just have to do something about it and move forward. So this comes back to content creation for me. I think it's more about making sure you have a lot of variety. We always talk about shoulder niches rather than specific sort of content creation.
Yeah,
appealing to a more general audience.
Yeah,
content you
create.
So
the keywords that you're targeting, maybe go more long tail.
So it's just a matter of thinking outside of the box, and we talk about this quite a bit. That people will often say, I can't create content, my niche is boring. And this is where it comes to just thinking outside of the box. What are the related things? Because a lot of the time, people aren't going to specifically search for what your business does. So content creation needs to be about variety and about thinking outside of the box.
Yeah,
what are the other interests that your potential ideal client has relating to your niche?
Exactly. So, I mean, that's the controversial Google update that we've seen. Where else are we seeing these controversial updates happen?
So a big thing for me that I've been watching for a while now is, this is mostly Google, but also Facebook's been involved in this too, is some sort of reactive and reckless updates. So people will complain about this particular content creator said this or did this, And previously, Google and Facebook have never been involved in anything political and anything sort of scandalous. They stand back and say, sort it out yourself. They've now become quite vocal about siding with particular agendas and political views, and also reacting to public outcry. A good example of this was the Steven Crowder scandal, which was he's sort of a right-wing content creator who said some harassing sort of statements about Carlos Maza, who worked for Vox. And Carlos Maza got on Twitter, complained about it, and said YouTube needs to do something about this guy. At first they said we're not getting involved. Then next minute they shut down Steven Crowder, and they shut down a lot of other right-wing content creators at the same time. So that's a little bit concerning, that they're siding with political sort of stuff, whereas previously they've never been involved with that before.
So we're seeing a loss of freedom of speech, basically.
Yeah, and Facebook's done the same. I mean, we're talking back like Cambridge Analytica and all that sort of scandal, but since then they've been involved in like a lot of political stuff around the elections and things like that too.
Well, Facebook has definitely upped the ante on their activity around safety and what content they deem safe on their platform since the New Zealand shooting and that guy streaming live, the shooting. So, of course, we don't want to see that stuff come through.
Which is fair enough. Like, there's certain
Absolutely.
things that they should be censoring actively and things like that. But when it comes to just opinions, shaping what content that they allow based on people's reaction to opinions of content creators, but then calling it censorship and calling it policy violation, despite the fact that it's not actually violating any policies, that starts to become a little bit questionable. And when they change features based on that as well, so that it's limiting what sort of content can be put out there, that's a little bit questionable too. A lot of people have been speaking out about it, saying that they're not happy about Facebook and Google getting involved with things like that. For most people, it's not a big deal, because most people aren't creating like controversial content and things like that. But it also means you just need to be mindful that things can change in a heartbeat on these platforms, and making sure that you're diversifying across as many platforms as possible, making sure you're focusing on your own content creation and building your own network and building yourself as like a media outlet, rather than specifically relying on Facebook or specifically relying on Google.
Absolutely.
It's just
That's
eggs in one basket.
That's a whole
mentality,
chat
yeah.
on its own, isn't it?
Yeah.
But previously we have said, look, it's too hard to spread yourself across networks or channels, that being, the likes of all the social media channels, Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat. But now we're seeing such massive changes happening in those spaces that it is actually changing the virility of our content. It's changing our capability to advertise to certain target audiences on those platforms. So we actually are now encouraging you to not rely on those borrowed channels, and rely a lot more on your owned channels, being your website, and using those channels to drive traffic to your website, so that essentially, no matter what updates occur, you've still got a great foundation to work from, always.
Like if you as a scenario, like if Facebook's getting involved in political sort of stuff and they do the wrong thing, they land in hot water and they severely have to change their features, that's going to affect a lot of people. So it's just something that you have to be aware. It could happen when they're making changes this recklessly. They might find themselves in a spot where where people can't use it as an advertising platform anymore.
Well,
so
on that reckless or controversial updates to Facebook, we've seen some major changes happen to the advertising, capabilities in Facebook, and how they've been taking away a lot of the targeting that we were capable of doing before, decreasing
reach has gone down massively. I mean, everyone can see that.
Decreasing reach and engagement,
Yeah.
Especially on Facebook, has occurred, and so your organic posts weren't doing very well to start off with. Then now the advertising platform updates has decreased your ability to get reach and engagement. So so a lot of advertisers and social media marketers are actually quite pissed at Facebook, and have shifted their focus to Instagram, which is also owned by Facebook, and obviously you can advertise through Instagram's native app as well as through the Facebook platform. But you know, it does feel like what's your other options? You know, it's like
Look, I don't think it's worth anyone like. The people that are focusing solely on Facebook, they're annoyed about this, obviously, but that's because they've put all their eggs in one basket.
That's right.
I think at the end of the day, this is affecting everyone. There's nothing you can do about it, and you just have to move on.
Well, that's a wrap, guys. Controversial updates from Google and Facebook happening to you right now and marketers across the globe. It is 100% being seen by all of the marketers, so it's not hearsay. Dust hasn't settled yet, so
Probably more to talk about next week.
yeah, keep your eye on your keep your eye on your rankings, keep your eye on your analytics, so you know what's going on. Thanks very much for watching. Me Media Studio here at Burley Heads. Wait a minute.
Start again.
Yee!